I still remember the sound of the door clicking open that night. It was soft, almost careless, like someone coming home from a long, easy day, not the sound of guilt. Not the sound of someone who'd just torn my heart out without realizing it yet. But that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. She walked in humming, my wife Lena. A small smile on her face, her hair tied up in that messy bun she always made when she didn't expect anyone to care how she looked. She tossed her purse on the counter and kicked off her shoes like nothing in the world was wrong. Except everything was. The room smelled like vanilla candles and cold coffee. The clock ticked loud in the silence. I was sitting at the kitchen table, phone in hand, staring at the message that had gutted me only an hour before. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. From a number saved as Lay. She froze when she saw me sitting there. Her smile faltered, like she was trying to place the expression on my face. I didn't say a word. Just looked at her. Hey, she said finally, forcing a laugh. Why are you just sitting there in the dark? My mouth was dry. My hands were shaking. I could feel my pulse behind my eyes. I said, "Who's he?" Her face went blank. For half a second, I saw the truth flash across her eyes before she masked it with confusion. What are you talking about? I turned my phone around. The message glowed in the dim kitchen light. Her hand went to her mouth like she could push the words back in time. There was a long silence, just the clock ticking. I swear I could hear my heartbeat echoing in the walls. It's not what you think, she started. I let out a bitter laugh. Then please, explain what I'm thinking wrong. She looked around the room like she was trying to find an escape hatch that didn't exist. Finally, she said it, quietly, like a confession whispered to herself more than to me. It's Ethan. The name felt like a slap. Ethan, her coworker, the guy she said was just helping her with that project. The guy I shook hands with at her company barbecue. I didn't say anything, I just looked at her. She kept talking, words tumbling out in fragments. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It just happened. We've been close and I didn't think. Didn't think what? Didn't think I'd find out. Didn't think I'd care. My throat burned. Were you ever going to tell me? She closed her eyes. I don't know. That broke me more than the affair itself. Not the cheating, not the lies. It was that I don't know. Like our marriage had become an inconvenience she hadn't decided what to do with yet. I stood up. The chair legs screeched against the floor, loud, angry. She flinched. How long? I asked. 3 months. I remember blinking hard because for a second everything blurred, like my body was rejecting reality. 3 months, 90 days of dinners, good mornings, and I love you texts, all a lie. She started crying, hands shaking, mascara streaking down her face. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. You don't just trip and fall into someone's arms for 3 months, I snapped. The anger wasn't loud, it was quiet, tired, bitter. It came from a place deeper than rage, a kind of grief you can't scream out of your chest. She tried to move closer. Please, just let me explain. I stepped back. I couldn't stand her being near me. The smell of her perfume, the same one she probably wore for him, made me sick. What did I do wrong? I asked. My voice cracked. Was it me? Was I not enough? She shook her head. It wasn't like that. You've always been good to me. Too good. I felt like I was disappearing. Like my life was on repeat, he made me feel. I cut her off. Don't say it. Alive, she whispered anyway. The word hung in the air like a knife. Alive. And what was I? Dead weight. Just the guy who paid the bills, kept the lights on, loved her quietly while she went searching for something more exciting. I remember staring at the roses on the counter. I'd bought them earlier that day, for her. They were still fresh, wrapped in paper, waiting to be placed in a vase. I had written a little note too, just because you make life beautiful. She noticed them, her eyes widened. The sight of those roses hit her harder than anything I said. I could see it in her face, the regret, the horror. She knew exactly what they meant. She reached out to touch them, but I moved them away. Don't, I said quietly. The silence stretched again, heavy, suffocating. She finally whispered, I'm so sorry. I nodded, yeah, me too. And that's when I did something I didn't even plan. I walked past her, opened the front door and said, if you need to feel alive, go. Don't worry, I'll make sure you're free. She hesitated, tears streaming down her face. You're just letting me go. I looked her in the eyes one last time. No, I'm letting myself go. Then I shut the door. On the other side, I heard her start to sob, not the quiet, guilty kind, the broken kind, like she finally realized what she'd destroyed. I leaned against the door, breathing hard. The roses sat on the table behind me, still beautiful, still untouched. And as her sobs faded into the night, I picked up my phone again, deleted her contact, and typed something on a small piece of paper. You'll find the rest of your things tomorrow. Don't come back tonight. I left the note beside the roses. When she saw them next, she'd know exactly what that meant, but what I didn't know, what I couldn't know, was that this wasn't the end. Not even close, because sometimes the people who break you once find a way to crawl back when they're broken too, and that's when the real story begins. The first morning after she left felt like waking up in someone else's house. Her side of the bed was cold, the air smelled like nothing, not her shampoo, not her lotion, just emptiness. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, trying to convince myself it was real. It's funny how quickly a life can change. One night you're thinking about what to cook for dinner, and the next, you're wondering how you didn't notice your marriage dying in front of you. I tried to eat breakfast, but even the sound of the toaster felt too loud. Every corner of the kitchen was haunted, her mug still on the counter, her cardigan on the chair. Everything screamed her, but she was gone. And Ethan. That name stuck in my head like a splinter. For the first few days, I told myself I wouldn't look him up. I didn't want to see him, didn't want to know what kind of man could make her forget everything we built. But of course I did. His social media wasn't hard to find. Smiling, confident, perfect hair. The kind of guy who probably said all the right things without meaning any of them. I saw a photo, her hand in his, posted 3 weeks before everything fell apart. The caption read, "Sometimes the heart just knows." My stomach dropped. 3 weeks. She was still coming home, kissing me goodnight, calling me babe. I shut the laptop, but the image burned behind my eyes. The next few days blurred. Work, sleep, avoiding people who asked how she was. I told them she was visiting family, because saying she left me for someone else felt too raw, too humiliating. At night, I'd catch myself scrolling through old photos, the vacation we took to the mountains, her laughing in the passenger seat, my hand over hers on the gearshift. She used to say I made her feel safe. I guess safety gets boring after a while. One evening, a text came through, unknown number, but I knew who it was before I opened it. "I hope you're okay." I didn't answer. A minute later, another one. I didn't mean for things to end like that. I stared at the screen, then typed back, "They didn't end, you ended them." No reply after that, just silence. For a while I thought that was it, that I'd never hear from her again, but pain has a way of lingering in echoes. A few weeks later, I ran into her sister at the grocery store. She hugged me tight like I was the one who'd lost a loved one. She whispered, "She's with him now. They moved in together." Moved in, that hit harder than anything. She didn't just leave, she replaced me. I tried to act okay. I smiled, nodded, said I was doing fine. But when I got back to my car, I just sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. You start to realize how much of your identity was tied to someone else when they're gone. I didn't know what to do with myself. Who was I without her? I started running in the mornings, just to feel something again. The cold air burned my lungs, but it was better than sitting in silence. Sometimes I'd come back, make coffee, and stand by the window staring at the empty driveway where her car used to be. It's strange, grief doesn't come all at once. It sneaks up on you in waves. You'll be fine for a while, then suddenly a song comes on, or you smell her perfume on a stranger, and it all comes crashing back. One night, about a month after she left, I got a call. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer. But something told me to. When I picked up, I heard breathing. Then her voice, soft, shaky. "Mark." I froze. "Lena." "I just wanted to hear your voice," she said. I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. "How's Ethan?" I finally asked. There was a pause, then she said, "He's different than I thought." Different? I almost laughed. That's what happens when you chase a fantasy. Reality shows up eventually. She sniffled quietly on the other end. "You don't have to be cruel." "I'm not," I said. "I'm just being honest." There was silence, long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then, softly, "I miss you." I closed my eyes. Every part of me wanted to believe her. But another part, the one that still remembered that message from E, told me not to. "You miss the version of me that forgave everything," I said. "That man's gone." She didn't respond, just a quiet breath, then the line went dead. After that, I knew she wasn't happy. You could hear it in her voice, that brittle tone of someone realizing the grass isn't greener, just different shades of broken. Weeks passed again. I focused on work, therapy, my friends. Slowly, painfully, I started to rebuild myself, but then came the moment that changed everything. I came home one evening, found an envelope taped to my door. No name, just my address, written in handwriting I knew too well. Inside was a photo, her and Ethan, sitting at a restaurant. Only this time she wasn't smiling. Her eyes were red, and scribbled across the back in shaky writing, "You were right about him." That was it, no explanation, no number. I stood there for a long time, staring at that note. Something inside me shifted, not relief, not revenge, just inevitability. I knew it was only a matter of time before she showed up again. And when she did, I didn't know whether I'd open the door or let her stand outside in the rain she'd created. It happened on a Sunday night, cold rain outside, the kind that sounds like static against the windows. I was sitting on the couch, halfway through a movie I wasn't really watching, when I heard the knock. Soft, hesitant, 3 taps, then silence. For a second, I thought maybe it was the neighbor kid or a delivery mix-up. But something in my chest already knew. I opened the door. And there she was, Lena. She looked nothing like the woman who left me. Her hair was damp, makeup smudged, eyes swollen from crying. She was holding an umbrella, but she wasn't even using it, just standing there in the rain. "Hi," she whispered. I didn't move, didn't invite her in. All I could manage was, "What are you doing here?" Her lips trembled. I didn't know where else to go. There it was, the same voice that used to be my comfort, now shaking with regret. I let her stand there a few more seconds, the rain dripping from her jacket, before I finally stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated like she was scared to cross that threshold. Then she did, and just like that, the house smelled like her again. She looked around slowly, taking in everything, the rearranged furniture, the empty spaces where her things used to be. It wasn't home anymore, not for her, and I think that realization hit her hard. I stayed quiet, let her take it in. Finally she spoke. "You redecorated." I nodded, "Yeah. Needed some new energy." She tried to smile, but it broke halfway through. "Mark, don't," I said, "not yet." We stood there in silence. The rain outside filled the space between us. She finally sat down on the couch, hands clasped in her lap. "I know I don't have the right to ask for your time," she said, voice shaking, "but please just hear me out." I sat across from her. "Go ahead." She took a deep breath, the kind people take before they rip open old wounds. "I thought I knew what I wanted," she began. "Ethan made me feel like I was missing out on something, like I was trapped in routine. I thought he saw me in a way you didn't anymore, but I was wrong." I didn't say anything, just listened. She kept going, words spilling out between shaky breaths. "He wasn't what I thought. The first few weeks were exciting, sure. New places, new attention. But then he started changing, controlling, cold. He'd get jealous if I talked to friends. He'd pick fights, and the way he talked about you." She paused, voice breaking. "He made fun of you, said you were boring." Predictable, but when he said that, all I could think was, God, I miss boring, I miss peace, I miss safety. She started crying, not the shallow kind, the kind that comes from realizing you've ruined something you can never get back. I looked down at my hands, fingers tracing the lines of my palm. "I tried to warn you," I said softly, "but you were already gone." "I know." Her voice cracked. "I was selfish. I thought the grass was greener, but it was just painted concrete. I kept thinking about you, how kind you were even when I didn't deserve it, how you used to leave me little notes, how you looked at me like I was still worth something." I clenched my jaw. "Don't romanticize it now, Lena. You didn't think any of that when you walked out." She nodded through her tears. "You're right, I didn't. And I hate myself for it." For a long time, neither of us spoke, just the sound of rain and our breathing. Finally, she whispered, "I left him." I looked up. "When's?" 2 days ago, I packed my things and walked out. He didn't even try to stop me. He just laughed. That image hurt in a way I didn't expect, not because I wanted him to care, but because I realized how low she'd been brought. She wiped her face. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I'm sorry for everything." Her voice cracked again. "You were my safe place, and I burned it down." I felt my throat tighten. For months I'd imagined this moment, her on her knees, apologizing, realizing what she'd lost. But standing there in reality, it didn't feel satisfying. It just felt sad. "Why come back?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "Because I don't know how to live with what I did, and because I still love you." That word love landed like a ghost between us. I stared at her. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. "Love doesn't do what you did, Lena. Love doesn't look you in the eye and lie every day for 3 months. She nodded, sobbing harder now. "I know, but I can't change it. I can only tell you I'd give anything to undo it." I stood up, pacing slowly across the room. My chest felt tight. "I spent months asking myself what I did wrong," I said. "If I wasn't exciting enough, passionate enough, strong enough. But now I realize I was just loving the wrong version of you." Her shoulders shook. "Please don't say that." "Why not? It's the truth." She covered her face with her hands, crying into her palms. And for a second, just 1 second, I almost went to her, almost held her. But something inside me said no. Not this time. After a while, her crying slowed. She whispered, "Can I stay, just tonight? I have nowhere else to go. I looked at her for a long time. The rain outside had softened into a drizzle. She looked so small, so human. Part of me still loved her. Part of me always would. But I also knew love wasn't supposed to hurt like this. I finally said, "You can stay, but just for tonight." Her eyes widened, relief, guilt, gratitude all at once. "Thank you," she whispered. She curled up on the couch, hugging a blanket. I turned off the lights and went upstairs alone. But even in the dark, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, broken, trembling, drowning in her own choices. And for the first time since she left, I didn't feel angry, just empty, because forgiveness doesn't always come with reunion. Sometimes, it's just the quiet decision to stop letting pain live rent-free in your heart. And as I lay there listening to the rain fade into silence, I knew tomorrow would bring the hardest part. The letting go morning came softly. No alarm, no birdsong, just the faint gray light bleeding through the curtains. For the first time in a long while, the house didn't feel heavy, just quiet. I sat at the edge of the bed, listening. Downstairs, I could hear the faint rustle of movement, Lena, probably trying to make coffee. It used to be our ritual. Now it felt like a ghost wearing her shape. I washed my face, looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes looked older, tired but calm, and maybe that's what healing really looks like, not happiness, just peace after chaos. When I went downstairs, she was standing in the kitchen, wearing one of my old sweatshirts, holding a mug with both hands, staring at the counter like she was trying to memorize it. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning." There was a pause. She looked up at me with swollen eyes. "I didn't sleep much," she said. "Me neither." I poured myself some coffee. The smell filled the room, rich and bitter, a scent I used to love. Now it just reminded me of all the mornings we wasted pretending everything was fine. "I made breakfast," she said quietly, "just toast and eggs." I glanced at the plate she'd set on the table. She even used the blue plates, my favorite ones. It was almost cruel, the way normalcy tried to creep back in after everything burned down. We sat across from each other, the same table where it all ended months ago. Except now there was no shouting, no tears, just two people sitting in the ruins of what used to be love. Finally, she spoke. "I meant what I said last night," she said, "about being sorry, about still loving you." I nodded slowly. "I know. I don't expect anything," she went on. "I just wanted to say it, out loud, one last time if that's all I get." Her voice cracked on the word last, and something inside me softened. I put my mug down and took a deep breath. "Lena," I said quietly, "I forgave you a long time ago." She froze. "You what?" "I didn't realize it at first," I said, "but somewhere between the silence, the sleepless nights, and the tears, I stopped hating you. Because hate just keeps you tied to the person who hurt you, and I needed to let go not for you, but for me." Her eyes filled again. She reached out a trembling hand across the table. I hesitated, then let her fingers brush mine, just once. "I don't deserve that," she whispered. "Maybe not," I said softly, "but forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about ending the story where it should end." She nodded slowly, biting her lip. "I wish I could go back," she said. "Fix it, do everything differently." I smiled sadly. "You can't, none of us can. That's what makes it real." We sat in silence again. The light outside had turned gold, pouring through the window in soft streaks. It painted her face in warmth, the same face I once woke up next to every morning, memorizing every freckle, every line. And just like that, I realized I wasn't in love with her anymore. I loved who she was, but not who she became, not who she was now. That realization didn't hurt, it just set me free. I stood up, walked to the counter, and grabbed a folded piece of paper. I'd written it the night before when she fell asleep on the couch. I handed it to her. "What's this?" Something I needed to say, but in my own way. She opened it. Inside, just a few lines. "You don't owe me a happy ending. You owe yourself a lesson, and I owe myself peace." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She covered her mouth, trembling. "Mark." I smiled gently. "You should go. It's better that way." She nodded slowly, painfully. Then she stood, walked to the door, and hesitated. "Will you ever want to see me again?" she asked quietly. I thought for a long moment, then said, "Maybe, someday. When it doesn't hurt to remember." She wiped her eyes, gave a small nod, and opened the door. The morning light hit her face, bright and warm. For a second, she looked like the woman I used to know, before choices and consequences twisted everything between us. She whispered, "Goodbye. Goodbye, Lena." The door closed gently behind her, and just like that, it was over. No yelling, no anger, just the sound of quiet acceptance. I walked to the window and watched her car pull away, the tires crunching softly against the gravel. For the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt empty, yes, but peaceful. And sometimes peace is the best you can hope for after love ends. I turned back to the table. Her coffee mug sat there, still half full, steam fading. Beside it, one of the roses I'd kept alive in a small vase. I picked it up, twirled it between my fingers, and smiled faintly. Then I whispered to the empty room. Some stories aren't meant to end with a reunion. Some just end, so we can finally begin again. And that's how I knew. Letting go doesn't mean you stop loving them. It just means you finally love yourself more. You stop loving them. It just means you finally love yourself more.